My name is Keshwani. There's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for SAT. We have been solving SAT math problems out of this book here, the official SAT study guide. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The problem that we are about to solve is the one that you will find on page number 642. Please turn to it, page 642. Today is our lesson number 64. Let's take a look at it. Number 15. Number 15 is the very first one there. We are given two triangles here. One triangle we are told is ABC, and we are told that this is 8, this is x degrees, this is x degrees, and we are told that this side is 5. And another triangle DEF, we are told that this is y degrees, this is y degrees, and that's about it. And we are given a notation underneath the pictures that these pictures are not drawn to scale, which is fine. If y equals to 60, alright, so y equals to 60, so this is 60 degrees, and if this is 60 degrees, then so is this one, because they are both y degrees. Now watch what happens here. Since we just found out that these two angles are 60 degrees each, and since we know that the sum of the angles in a triangle has to be 180, if these two are 60 each, which is 120 altogether, then this top one must also be 60, even though they do not tell us that. Now, they go on to tell us that D to F, I left it out, is equal to 5. Is equal to 5. But now that we realize that they are all 60 degrees inside, it's an equilateral triangle, which means if D to F is 5, then this must be 5 and this must be 5. Let's carry on. Let's see what they're asking. If y is equal to 60, so that's what we got. If y is equal to 60, then this is 60, this is 60, therefore that is 60. And since this side is 5, therefore other two sides must also be 5. That's what all of that we got from the fact that y is equal to 60. Question simply is, how much greater is the perimeter of triangle ABC than the perimeter of DEF? Well, let's find out ABC, what the perimeter is. Now here, we are told that this is x degrees and this is x degrees. If they are both x degrees, then the opposite sides must be equal to each other. It's an isosceles triangle. If this angle is equal to that angle, it's an isosceles triangle. And since we are telling us that A to B is 8, if A to B is 8, then B to C must also be 8. So how much bigger is the perimeter of ABC compared to DEF? That's very simple. These are both 5, so they don't count. If you compare 8 with 5, that's a difference of 3. If you compare this 8 with this 5, that's a difference of 3. So 3 plus 3 is 6. The answer is 6. The perimeter of triangle ABC is 6 more than the perimeter of the other triangle. The answer is C. Number 16. Number 16. We don't actually have to waste our time to add up the three sides and find the perimeter of this side and find the perimeter of that side. It's a waste of time. Just compare the sides. This is 5 more, this is 3 more, and that's 3 more. So it's a difference of 6. Let's see what we have in 16. We are told that x and y are positive consecutive odd integers. Alright. X and y are positive consecutive odd integers. And we are also told that y has to be more than x. If y has to be more than x, let's just plug in some numbers. Just keep in mind they have to be positive and they have to be consecutive odd integers. So let's pretend that x is 3. If x is 3 and since y has to be more than x, y would have to be 5. And the question simply is, how much is y squared over y squared minus x squared? How much is y squared over y squared minus x squared? So if you're going to plug in 5 for y, then y squared would be 25. And if y is 5, then x would have to be 3 because they're consecutive odd integers. They're consecutive odd integers. So if y is 5, then the one before it must be 3 because they're consecutive odd integers. Therefore 3 squared is 9 and the difference is 16. And this is what we call our punchline. And I always put my punchline as a habit. I don't know why I did not do it this time. It's just my habit to always put the punchline in a box. Do you understand? So the answer is 16. All we have to do now, listen carefully, all we have to do now is go through every single answer choice. Wherever we see x, we're going to replace it with 3. Wherever we see y, we're going to replace it with 5 until we come upon an answer choice that gives us our punchline. That's all. Let's do it. Let's do it. A says 2 times x. Well, x is 3. 2 times 3 is not 16. We're looking for 16. A is not the answer. B says 4 times x. Well, 4 times x is 4 times 3, which is 12. We're looking for 16. B is not the answer. Let's look at C. C says 2 times x plus 2. 2 times x is 3 plus 2. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. We're looking for 16. C is not the answer. Let's keep on going. D says 2x plus 4. D says 2x plus 4. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 4 is 10. We're looking for 16. That's not it. Let's look at E. E says 4x plus 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 4 is 16. Voila. We found our punchline. The answer is E. The answer is E. So this is one way of taking care of this problem, which is the non-traditional method. What is known as the plugging in method, where we plug in numbers for the variable and we convert thereby an algebraic problem into a very simple arithmetic problem. It is a very simple arithmetic problem because all we are asked here is how much is 25 minus 9. All we are being asked is that if y is 5 and x is 3, how much is y squared minus x squared, which is same as asking how much is 25 minus 9. And the answer is 16. Another way to tackle this problem is through the conventional way, the traditional way, the orthodox way, the geeky way, the nerdy way, the academic way, the algebraic way. If you like, we can do that too. Let's do it together, the algebraic way, shall we? That's it, we are done with this part. Now in the algebraic way, what we have to realize is that since x and y are consecutive odd integers, actually in the traditional method it wouldn't matter whether they're consecutive odd integers or consecutive even integers. When the two numbers are consecutive odd integers or consecutive even integers, the difference between the two numbers is 2. For example, if this is 3, then this one would have to be 3 plus 2 or 5. So since this is x, then y would have to be 2 more than x plus 2. Y equals x plus 2. And the question is how much is y squared minus x squared? Y is x plus 2, we put it in here. X plus 2 squared minus x squared. And when we open the parentheses, we find that x plus 2 whole squared equals x squared plus 4x plus 4 minus x squared. And x squared and x squareds are going to drop out. And there you go, there is our answer, 4x plus 4, which is what we found. The answer is E, 4x plus 4. Number 17. We're done with this one? Number 17. I want to warn you. That number 17 is very nasty. Even though for some strange and inexplicable reason to me, the college board, the people who give you the exam, that entity is called the college board. The college board people have designated this problem as a medium question. In my opinion, it's not a medium question. It's a little bit involved. It's going to get a little involved. Now listen, it involves with the concept of two lines being perpendicular to each other and what happens to their slope when the two lines are perpendicular to each other. So if you have one line, here's one line, and if another line cuts it at 90 degrees, then the slope of this line, let's call it line L and line K, and the slope of line L times the slope of line K equals -1. This is the concept that they're testing here. That when two lines are perpendicular to each other, the product of their slope is -1. I'm going to say it one more time slowly. When two lines are perpendicular to each other, then the product of their slopes equals -1. Now this is something you must know. This is something that you have to know. You have to know by heart. There are many facts of arithmetic and mathematics that you have to know by heart. You have to know that the sum of the degrees in a circle is 360. You have to know the sum of the degrees in a triangle is 180. There are many rules that you have to know by heart, the facts of arithmetic. This is one of them. Listen, this problem that we are about to do is very similar to 3 more problems that we have already done. And if you have not watched the previous 3 videos, I recommend that you watch them first. It will make it that much easier to follow this work. Do you understand? And the 3 problems that we have already done are I want you to compare this problem with number 6 on page number 415, which we did on day number 7, number 10 on page number 546, which we did on day number 43, number 16 on page number 585, which we did on day number 49. And if you have not watched these videos, as I said before, make sure you watch them first. It will make your life that much easier. So, having said that, let's carry on then. It says, in the xy plane, line L passes through the origin. Alright, so based on what we have read so far, we have line L that goes through the origin. Let's call it line L. Actually, I'm going to call it line L1. I'm going to call it line L1 because soon they're going to introduce a second line to which they have assigned no names. And when things have no names, it's very difficult to talk about them because then you end up talking about he and not him and not that guy and not this guy. It's easier to give people names, which is why we give them name, okay? Otherwise, the phone book is going to be full of he and she. That will not be fun. Do you understand? Alright, so this is L1. One more time, I'm going to read what we have read so far. Okay, so listen how I'm phrasing it. I'm going to read what we have read so far. In the xy plane, line L passes through the origin. There is your line L1. Now, do you see a problem with it? Do you have an objection to it? Do you have a problem with it? You should. Because we do not know if line L1 looks like that. We do not know that for a fact. I drew it as a positively sloped line. Where in the hell does it say that it has to be positively sloped line? We have not read anything else that tells us that the line L1 has to be positively sloped. I took liberties. I made assumption. For all we know, the line L1 that we're talking about could very well be a negatively sloped line going through the origin. Based on what we have read so far, we do not know which scenario we're dealing with yet. Do you understand? So we have to read the rest. And it's perpendicular, there you go, and it is perpendicular to another line, which we're going to call line L2, and they give us an equation of line L2, which is 4x plus y equals k. So here's our line L2. 4x plus y equals k. We have to write this equation into standard form, which is y equals to negative 4x plus k. This coefficient of x tells us the slope of line. This tells us that the slope of line L2 is negative 4. And since the product of the slope is negative 1, that tells us the slope of line L1 times the slope of line L2 has to equal negative 1. Since this is negative 4, this one would have to be positive 1/4. With positive 1/4 and negative 4, the 4s will drop out and we end up with positive 1 times negative 1 gives us negative 1. You see, there's a lot going on in this problem. I do not know why it's classified as a medium question. So now we know that the slope of the line L1 is in fact positive. Not only we know that it's positive, but we also know that it's exactly positive 1/4. So we drew it properly. We drew the line properly. It is a positive slope line, and also make a note that the slope of line L1 is positive 1/4. For those of you who have trouble understanding the symbol that I just used, letter M is traditionally used in mathematics to denote slope of a line, any line. Slope. For example, if I put down M subscript P, that would denote traditionally as a slope of line P in the context of the problem. If the problem is dealing with geometry with a whole bunch of lines and one of the line is said to be P, then M with subscript P would denote the slope of line P. Here, M subscript L1 tells us the slope of line L1 is positive 1/4. Alright, let's carry on then. What else do we know? What else do they tell us? Let's read the rest now. But this is how you should read the problem. Don't read the entire problem in one shot and try to digest it. As I always tell my students, that solving a mathematical problem, the simile that I use is that solving a mathematical problem is like eating. When the food is put in front of somebody in a plate, one does not just pick up the plate and just go. One does not. One takes the bite, one bite at a time. Read a little bit, digest it, understand it, absorb it, and then read the next line. You understand? So this is how we read it. We first read that in xy plane line passes through the origin. Based on that, we've concluded that either this scenario or the other scenario is either positively sloped or negatively sloped. Then we went on. Then it went on to tell us that the other line that is perpendicular to this line has an equation of 4x plus y. 4x plus y equals k. Based on that, we found out that the other line, the line L2, was negatively sloped. Well, if line L2 was negatively sloped, then L1 must have been positively sloped because their product has to be -1. The only way you can get the product of two numbers to be -1 is if one is negative, the other one has to be positive. You understand? They cannot be both positive, they cannot be both negative. You're not going to get a product of a -1 or negative anything for that matter if the two numbers are positive or two numbers are negative. If the product of two numbers is negative, then one has to be positive, one has to be negative. So that's how we found. That's how we realized that's how we arrived at the conclusion that line L1 is in fact positively sloped, and not only that it is positively sloped, but the slope of line L1 is positive 1/4. Why? Because positive 1/4 and a -4 gives us the product of the two slopes to be -1. So far, so good. Now let's read the rest. If the two lines intersect at point T and T plus 1. There you go. That's the next bit. Two lines intersect at T and T. Is it T plus 1 and T or T and T plus 1? T and T plus 1. The x coordinate of this point, let's call it point B. The x coordinate of point B is T, and the y coordinate, let me point it as I talk about it. The point to it. X coordinate of point B is T, and the y coordinate of point B is T plus 1. And this line that we just drew here, the line that we're talking about, line L1, we know that goes through this point because they intersect at that point, and we also know that line L1 goes through this point, A, which is the origin, which we read a long time ago in the problem. So that's it. Since we know that line L1 goes through point A and point B, we can figure out the slope of line L1. And once we figure out the slope of line L1, we're going to equate it to positive 1/4 and solve for T. Let's do it. Slope we know is equal to change in y over change in x. Going from point A to point B, the change in y is going to be t plus 1 minus 0. T plus 1 minus 0. And change in x is going to be t minus 0. T minus 0. And since it's t minus 0, it doesn't do anything, it's just minus 0, it's not going to do anything. And on the top is t plus 1 minus 0, it's just minus 0, it's not going to do anything. So that's it. This is the slope of the line L1, which we know has to equal positive 1/4. That's it. That's our equation. Cross multiply both sides and we get 4 times t plus 1 equals t. Open the parenthesis and we get 4t plus 4 equals t. Subtract t from both sides. Subtract t from both sides and subtract 4 from both sides, and we find that positive 4 and negative 4 cancel out. And positive 4t and a negative t, we get 3t equals, and this positive t is going to cancel out with this negative t, 3t equals -4, and therefore t equals to -4 over 3. Voila, finally we arrive at our destination after a very long journey. I do not know why the hell this problem is designated as a medium question, but sometimes one wonders. And once in a while they give you questions which they designate as a hard question, the very last question in the section, and it turns out to be pretty straight and pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Just the way, I guess, the cookie crumbles I believe is the expression. Let's do the next one, shall we? Number 18, the very last one on the page. We're done with this question. I'll give you a few seconds in case you want to pause if you want to freeze it. All right, number 18. In number 18, we are told that the average of x and y is k. All right. Average of x and y is k. Now how do you find average of two numbers? When we have two numbers, how do we find their average? Well, we add them up x plus y, and divide by 2. That's how we find the average of two numbers. And that we are told equals k. If you multiply both sides by 2, the 2 drops out here, and we find out that x plus y equals 2k. And the question here is, which of the following is the average of x, y, and z? Well, they want us to find the average of x, y, and z. How do we find the average of three numbers? Well, we add them up, all three numbers, and divide by 3. Well, we already know that x plus y equals 2k. So we can substitute the 2k here, and we find that 2k plus z over 3 is our answer. 2k plus z over 3 is our answer, which is answer choice A. This was one way of taking care of the problem by algebra. As you can see, just all algebra, we did not plug in any numbers. Or if you wanted to, we could have plugged in numbers. Let's do plugging in technique also, just to get the practice on both methods. Make up two numbers, make up two simple numbers. How about 3 and 5? How about 3 and 5? 3 and 5. 3 plus 5 is 8, 8 divided by 2 is 4, so k equals 4. Because k represents the average of 3 and 5. The question is, what's the average of x, y, and z? What's the average of x, y, and z? X plus y plus z, what's the average of it? Let's plug in the value for z. How much do you want z to be? Well, we know that we know our x is 3, we know our y is 5, 3 plus 5 is 8, and since we are dividing it by 3, some number that is divisible by 3 would be nice. How about 9? So 3 plus 5 is 8, 8 plus 1 is 9, so let's pretend that z is 1. Let's pretend that z is 1. So 3 plus 5 plus 1, which is 9, 9 divided by 3 is 3, and therefore the average of the three number is 3. And this is our punchline. At this stage, I'm mixing up the two methods together. I hope you're not confused. This is all algebraic way. All of this was the algebra method. All of this was the algebra method. Now we're doing it by plugging in different values. So we go from there to here. Now all we have to do is go to our answer choices. Wherever we see x, we're going to replace it with 3. Wherever we see y, we're going to replace it with 5. Wherever we see k, we're going to replace it with 4. Wherever we see z, we're going to replace it with 1. Until what happens? Until we find our punchline. Our punchline is 3. Let's find it, shall we? Where should we do it? Answer choice A says 2 times k plus z over 3. 2 times k. K is how much? K is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus z. Z is 1. Z, remember, was 1. So when you're plugging in numbers for the variables, you must keep track of all the numbers that you plugged in. Otherwise, you're going to get the wrong answer. You must know what value you plugged in for what variable. And what I do is basically what you just saw here. I draw a little line and just put down on top of it. Instead of wasting your time writing it on the side that x equals to 3, and then you have to go all over the page to see what you wrote down. Don't write it down on the side of the page. Just draw a small line on top of the variable and put in the very first time the variable appears in the problem. Do you understand? If x appears 3 times in the problem, don't put in some any old x. The very first time when x appears, whatever number that you want to plug in for it, just draw a little line and put it there. That's all. So 2 plus 4 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Voila, which is our punchline. Where is that? Right there. Which means A is the answer. If you try all the other answer choices, you will see that none of the other answer choices works out to be 3. Here we got lucky. Answer turned out to be A. If the answer turns out to be E, then you have to go through all of them. Just keep plugging in the values that you have chosen and keep working it out until you find the punchline. That's all. Very simple. Or you can do the traditional way. Alright? I will see you tomorrow, okay? Bye now.